What's up, Lloyd Nation? I'm sitting here today with the lovely Miss Tiffany Lloyd, aka Tiffsbass, who most of you probably know from Instagram. If you don't, you should be checking her out. All right, so I know that you've played with Yolanda Adams, Gladys Knight, KeKe Wyatt, Lynn Whitfield, and I think I saw correctly that you were playing with Ledisi the other day?
Yes, a couple weeks ago.
Nice. Yeah, she's got a special spot in my heart for Ledisi. So
she's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you are based in DC now, but where did you grow up and how did you first get into music?
Okay, so I grew up in New Jersey,
Yeah.
and I was born and raised in New Jersey. My sister actually is a musician. She doesn't
nice.
really play as much anymore. She played piano, so that's kind of how I got into music.
Oh, nice.
So I wanted to be a piano player like her.
Yeah.
So my mom put me in lessons, and then I kind of stuck to it, but I wasn't really into it. And then I always say bass found me. So I heard bass, and then I was like inquiring, like, what is that instrument I keep hearing? And I just so happened to ask a bass player, so that's how that worked out. So he taught me how to play. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to hold the bass, anything, nothing. Like
really?
Absolutely zero about a bass. I didn't know what it was, so I had to start from scratch.
Oh, cool. And did you take lessons growing up, or?
I did. I went to a music school I went to a music school to learn how to play on piano and learn how to read music, and then I also took private bass lessons.
Oh, cool.
So I was like getting the best of both worlds at 2 different times, but
yeah, that's best of both worlds for sure. So after picking up the bass, who were some of your earliest influences?
Interestingly, piano players. I listen to a lot of Alan Cruz. He's a classical pianist. Of course, Jaco Pastorius, and then some other jazz bass players, John Petitucci, Matthew Garrett. We were just talking about Matthew Garrison.
So good.
Some of the jazz bass players. I listen to a lot of Yannick Wisdala. I like to cover some of his stuff on my Instagram page.
He's great too, and another great instructor as well. With some really good material out for sure. Who would you say are some bass players now that influence you?
Oh man, let's see. Oddly, here's another odd thing. I would say organ players, because they to me sound like Corey Henry.
Oh yeah.
He makes me a bass player sometimes, it's really cool. And then there's some New York organists that I've heard, and it's like hearing them play with their left hand is like bass lessons for me. But I still listen to a lot of Matthew Garrison and Yannick Wisdala. They're still my current influences as far as, of course, Victor Wooten.
One of everyone's influences.
Right.
I think.
Who does he not influence? So,
absolutely. So having started on piano has really kind of continued into how you look at playing bass, essentially.
Yeah, it helps shape how I approach bass playing. So I kind of approach it from a keyboard or piano standpoint.
Yeah. So you've been referred to as a keyboard player's dream. So is this kind of how that nickname came about?
That's how that came about. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I get it. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So for any of the younger players that are watching, what are some of the first things you remember learning on bass? Like, what would have been some of the exercises that you?
A lot of fingering exercises.
Oh, okay.
That's a big thing, and I was taught to learn fingering because you have to have clean technique in order to sound good at any song.
Yeah.
So between learning your scales and then just perfecting technique with your fingering, that's really important. I'm sure you've seen some bass players where it's like their technique is kind of kind of like scary a little bit.
It looks like that's the hard way to do it.
Yeah, right. The hard way.
Absolutely.
Would
you be able to give us an example, play us an example of a fingering exercise?
Sure. And I always tell them bring their metronome, play with your metronome, of course. That's so I'll
very key.
Play, definitely key, or else you'll be a drummer's nightmare. So there's some 2-finger exercises, there's 4-finger exercises. One I always show students, if you use your these are your 2 weakest fingers on the bass, as far as playing bass, not in general, but so you want to exercise those. So you can just take it's kind of like a walk up. You can start anywhere. I usually start beyond the 12th fret, and then just kind of really slow.
Yeah.
If you do this all day, and I always say start on the 4-string, don't start on the 5-string.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna act like I have a 5-string right now.
Yeah.
So simple things like I'm not good at talking and playing at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So just like that, and you just pretty much walk all the way down and walk all the way up. Another exercise, you might have even seen it, is like you can alternate your fingering. It's all just to strengthen your fingers. Things like that. That's always fun with a metronome. So things like that, you know, are good to do like for hours. I mean, you know, not just endlessly, but, you know, structured, you know, just kind of speeding up the tempo after a while, you know. So,
What you just played there is still how I warm up every time I pick up the bass, because it's, you know, having gotten a little older and having a busy life, sometimes you don't get to pick up a bass for a week, and all of a sudden that pinky's like
you're like, oh, I used to use that.
And I like how you said that, like if your technique isn't good, it's hard to execute the things you want to execute. So just having the finger strength a lot of times is what really helps you get through some things. So
and doing it slow first. Because a lot of people are scared to try things slowly. It's like, oh, it's not gonna, you know, because you see people do things really, really, really fast. Derek Bennett, for instance, I covered one of his solos
I saw
on
that.
Instagram. So
Yeah, it's great.
Everybody was like, oh, how did you do it so fast? I'm like, do you know what I started at? Like, snail pace, you know, because he's super, and even that video, I didn't do it to, I think I was 8 beats slower, 8 beats per minute slower. But just the fact that you start slow, so, and then you can perfect any exercise or, you know, solo or whatever it is. So.
That was something that took me a while to figure out too, because when you're young, you just want to play everything fast.
Right, how you hear it, like when it's presented to you, like, I want to play like that.
Yeah, Jocko, Victor Wooten, and all that stuff. But once I really got into learning about pocket and things like that, I started practicing things slow, and then by the time you go to play them sped up, you're able to play behind the beat and experiment a little. So super important for sure.
Very,
This is an absolutely gorgeous bass.
Thank you.
So Elrick, and you were actually the first black female endorser of Elrick basses.
That's pretty, I was like, wow.
You're a little blown away?
A little blown away.
Oh,
so,
nice. And what are some of the specs on this thing?
Buckeye Pearl finish. Let's see, Elixir Strings. He actually has his own strings, and I actually had them on my bass before. They fit perfectly, but I use Elixir Strings. They're like my favorite strings.
Nice.
But yeah, pretty much. And I know we were talking about Rudy's music earlier, but I first saw this bass in there.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty cool. Bartolini Electronics, and I have a Bartolini preamp in as well.
Oh, great.
So it's kind of like they changed everything out for me.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
It's pretty good.
Oh, very cool. And you're also an endorser with GR?
Yes, GRBass amps. I don't have that with me, but
for sure. But if you did, you could carry it because they're super light.
Oh my gosh, they get lighter and lighter every year. They had a whole display at NAMM last year, or the year before last, about how light, you know, they're making their boxes now. So,
I was. I got a chance to try one back in January for the first time, and I couldn't believe how I'm still lugging around an old like Eden 210. So.
Oh yeah, great amps, but they're kind of heavy.
Absolutely. So
So
you've, like I said, you've been based in DC,
right?
And obviously you've worked in New York. So you were previously on a off-Broadway musical called Four Colored Girls.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit about that show?
Oh man, that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing. It was a lot of bonding between the cast and the crew and the band, so that was like the best part.
Yeah.
But it was really a great show, and they're actually in the second run now. But,
great.
Yeah, it was a fantastic story. It was a tearjerker.
Yeah.
We all cried. Even us in the band in the back, we would like cry.
Oh.
It was really an emotional play. So
that's amazing.
It's a pretty powerful play when you have the crew crying.
Yeah, I would say so.
So, yeah.
Especially if it's after the first night.
Yeah, especially after the first night. But it was a lot of fun. That was the best part. It was so much fun.
Oh, great.
A lot of fun.
And so you aren't doing the show this year, but you were able to go to the Grammys this year. So what brought you to the Grammys?
Just the fact, I don't understand why a lot of people don't go to the Grammys if you have the privilege to go. I just had to go. Like, I'm just like, especially after my first experience there. I went right before COVID, so yeah, literally right before
2019-ish.
Actually, 2020. So, because it's in January, and it was right before everything shut down. So NAMM, that was the last time I went to NAMM, right before COVID, 2020, and then the Grammys. So the first time I went to the Grammys, it was like I didn't know what to expect. So this time I just had to go back. It was just like I have to go back every year. So
great.
Whenever they have it.
Yeah, and you've got a relationship with the Grammys. You're an instructor through Grammy U.
Right, the mentorship program. I became a part of that this year, so that was even more motivation to go back to the Grammys this year too.
For sure. And what do you teach through Grammy U?
So that is more like a mentorship. So you're basically teaching the business side of being successful in the entertainment industry. And I can't even just say music, because my first mentee was not a musician.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty cool. She's a journalist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm like, but she's affiliated with a record label. So I was just teaching her, like, the basics, like you have to get a website, like the different things like that to take yourself seriously as a business.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that is, that you're teaching through. Well, we'll see who my next mentee is, but
yeah, exactly.
but yeah, it might be a musician, but we'll see.
Yeah, so, and that's you've got your MBA as well.
Yes.
And was that something that you wanted to do in order to build the career that you've built in music?
It wasn't I just wanted to learn the business side of music and just kind of be just knowledgeable in business period. So that, because a lot of people I saw coming up, they would be great musicians, great singers, artists, but they didn't really know how to navigate and not get taken advantage of, if that makes sense. So I'm like, even if I don't know how to navigate, I just want to make sure I'm like on the smarter side of things, or just know who to ask and what to do and things like that. So
I think that's probably important advice too. I mean, it's as much fun as music is, it's still a business, and there are people that want to take advantage of people. And
there's sharks out there.
There are sharks in the water for sure. And being business savvy is definitely, especially now, I think it's more important. Because you can do so much more on your own, you can release things easier, but that comes with the responsibility of having to know how to navigate it. So,
and it creates some trustworthiness too.
Yes.
If people see that you're pretty good with your business, even just your own business, they can trust you more versus like if you're kind of all over the place, you don't know what you're doing, or like I said, or just who to ask. You don't know everything, but just who to ask and where to go.
That's great for sure. How do you find the scene in DC compared to your time in New York?
It's like polar opposites. It's really, really, really different. Even down to fashion, obviously, because fashion is like really big in New York, and DC is a lot different. But musically, I know, like in DC, you never, like if you just stay in DC and just work as a musician, you will never have a day off. You have to literally take a day off.
Oh, really?
So,
That's a good problem to have.
In DC, I don't find as many Broadway musicians, so that's one different thing that I, noticed between New York and DC. So most of the people I know in DC are R&B artists, of course, gospel artists. There's a lot of churches. Not that there's not a lot of churches in New York, but there's a lot of and also in DC you have go-go. That's another genre that I don't know if you've heard of that.
Absolutely.
It's a different.
It's a really cool part of the DC scene. I mean, it's huge, right? So
it's definitely huge.
And
I had to learn how to play go-go though. Like, I knew nothing about go-go. But it's so many music opportunities as far as like go-go. So
for sure. Go-go's not really something you just walk into.
Right. And funny story, I thought it would be easy because it sounds like if you just sit there and listen or go to a go-go show, it sounds like, oh, that's easy, So I'm like standing there's the band called Belladonna. They're very popular, and I'm like, they're like sisters to me. But when I first came around them, I'm like, oh, wow, I want to, sub in with them, it'll be cool. And they're like, yeah, come to some of the shows, just listen in. And I'm like, cool. And then I like tried it on my own, like to come to rehearsal. And I'm like, this is kind of not as easy as
this will be a little more work than I planned.
And it's like, it's a feel more than rules and stuff like that. So I was more used to like structured jazz, gospel. This more even classical is rules, but go-go is like more about feeling and the right time to do this and that. So yeah.
And I guess
like how do I do this?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean it's created so many great musicians too. Great DC musicians like Michelle is grew up in that scene. David Dyson, who we'll talk to later today.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's really interesting. If you're not familiar with go-go, you should really
definitely check out
some DC artists for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess that's actually a question I really like talking to people about is, I mean, it's harder to teach the whole feel aspect of playing bass.
Yeah.
And did you find like pocket feel?
Right.
I mean, we use these terms a lot, but did you find that pocket was something that came easily to you, or was it something you kind of learned from other players?
I learned from other players because coming from like listening to a lot of piano players, pocket was not like I was like, I want to play all the melodies, oh, pocket, that's boring. So I had to find my own way of making pocket great for me and to express myself through just plain bass playing, just pocket style. So
yeah, for sure. No, it's it's interesting. It's usually a thing that it's a hard thing to learn until you've been out with some other musicians and gotten beat up a little bit.
Right, got on everybody's nerves.
Oh yeah, for sure. Nothing will destroy pocket worse than nerves.
Oh God. Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. So, did you go to school for music eventually? I know that you didn't go to school. What did you go to school for first, and where did you end up?
I first went for sports administration, so the business side of sports. I wanted to do music in grad school, and I found out the hard way that was the only major that you couldn't do in grad school if you didn't do it in undergrad.
Oh wow!
So I was like, okay, so that's when I went to business. That's why I chose to do an MBA.
Yeah.
But so I went to a private school in Catonsville. It was through Bill's Music in Maryland.
Oh, nice.
And that's where I studied, learning how to read music and everything. And then I studied with some private instructors like Adam Johnson. Actually, just Adam Johnson. And my first teacher was Frank Washington. He was the one that actually showed me how to play the bass, how to pick it up. That was the one I just so happened to ask, like, what's that sound? What's that instrument I keep hearing? So.
And that curiosity will take you far.
Very far.
For sure. And again, something that you'll have a unique perspective on, but what was it like coming into the music scene when you did as a female bass player?
Oh yeah, that was interesting. Well, the funny thing is I grew up playing around all guys. So at first I didn't see it as, okay, how are they going to take me? I'm a girl, because they just treated me like one of the guys. Not like disrespectfully, but just like musically, we just expect the same thing from you as anybody else. So I didn't see it any different. And then when I, my first band outside of church, was an all-female band I started playing with.
Oh, great.
So that, matter of fact, Belladonna, the one I had mentioned a little while ago.
Oh,
so
nice.
that was fun, and then as I started to branch out, and, just work with different people, I would get those funny comments once in a while, like, I'll be walking through the airport with my bass, and a guy will walk up to me like, can you really play that thing? And I'm like, I'm in the airport. I don't understand why I would be walking through an airport with a bass if I can't really play. But, you think about it like, would you have asked a guy that? Probably not, so I don't harp on those things, but
I just want to keep up with my beginner lessons while I'm on vacation.
Right, so but it's been, I will say though, like, because, after the Beyonce, like, first all-girl band started, it became a big trend. So I gotta admit, like, that was a lot of, like, a big break for me as far as coming out and really becoming successful as a bass player, period. Because it was such a demand for female, and still is, for female bass players. Whether it's a music video, a band, an artist that just might want an all-girl band, or even, like, it was funny, the Grammys, not the Grammys that I went to in LA, or it was in Vegas this year. But the Grammy, when I was playing with Ledisi and Yolanda again, that, I believe they told me they requested a female bass player.
Oh, great.
And I was the only female bass player in a recording academy.
Oh,
so,
nice.
That worked out.
I
know, but it's been interesting. I always try to keep in mind, it's the instrument first, and then I happen to be a female bass player. Because when your name goes on credits on albums, they're not going to say Tiffany Lloyd, female bass player. It's just going to say Tiffsbass or Tiffany Lloyd. That's it. You know, so at the end of the day, I just try to pull my weight as a player. And then it's like, oh, I happen to be female.
And you know, people, you know, being a guy, I mean, people, I've heard complaints, oh, well, you know, they're hiring this person because they're a girl, but like you said, you still, like, you can't get hired to play bass with great artists because you're a girl. You have to be able to play. You gotta be able to play. At the end of the day. You know, there might be an opportunity because, like, if somebody's looking specifically for a female bass player, but to get in the door, you got to have the chops, right? So I don't think there's any validity to that, you know, whole argument. So.
You never want somebody to say, I can't see the person, but is that a girl playing? Because it doesn't sound like aggressive, or you don't ever want that.
No,
you know?
for
so
sure. Yeah.
That's why I always say, well.
Yeah. I don't think you got any worries with that.
It's been cool. It's been fun. It's been like I said, I haven't had any like bad experiences with that, you know, but just interesting.
But the like you said, the attitudes are changing, and and there's, you know, it seems like there's more and more women that are picking up bass as an instrument now. It seems like, which is super cool.
Super cool.
Even in the, you know, I'd say over the last 20 years, there's been a pretty huge shift. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been a big opening for that.
No, it's great for sure. Besides obviously being a killer player, what are some skills, personal skills that you think it's, you know, that you've obviously brought to the table that have made you an in-demand player?
Oh, okay. I guess like musically, just like focusing on warming up, like you said earlier, on the basics, you know, scales, modes, techniques, and things like that. Because it's easy to become really busy once you become popular and you don't practice. Like you're only learning songs, and then you can get kind of rusty.
You got road chops.
So I think it's important to just incorporate that practice time into your schedule, even if it's only like 2 or 3 hours outside of learning songs. That might take another 2 or 3 hours of recording sessions and stuff like that. But really, like, it's just like singers. I think singers that keep up with having vocal lessons, you know, vocal instruction, they're like some of the best singers because they stay sharp. You know, it's the same thing with musicians.
Yeah, and you can never be too good, right?
Right, you can never be too good. If you are too good, you can kind of go downhill if you don't keep that, you know, oil change going.
Absolutely. And what are some of the like non-musical skills, or the, I guess, the soft skills you need to bring to the table to?
Personality, professionalism, just be easy to work with. I think that's the biggest thing, you know. Nobody wants to work with a stuffy musician. Like, you know, it's an attitude, and, you know, I've seen
it
that.
Just brings down the whole gig for everybody, right?
It does, And I've even seen, like, on some sessions, I've seen maybe like another player might be struggling through something in, say, a rehearsal, but because their attitude is so good, that MD is willing to work with that person. Like, they're really helping. And then you see other situations where the attitude and the personality is not good, and they're struggling, and everybody's just like, send them home. You know, it's just, you know, so I think your attitude, you know, humility and all that, you know, is very important.
And those things are just as important as being able to play, I think. I mean, nobody, like you said, nobody wants to be on a gig with a stuffy musician, or not even expand that into being on the road, and all of a sudden it's a whole other thing, right?
Speaking on the road, also being in shape, or as close to it as you can, like just trying to stay healthy, that makes a major difference. Especially, I found, like, even when doing my own shows, stamina and just, you know, not getting tired, because when you're doing your own shows, you're not a background instrument anymore. So you're in the front, you're sweating, you're smiling, you're performing, you're running around, well, not running around, but so you have to be straight. And then, like you said, with the road, you know, you have to be able to pull your instrument and your luggage at the same time, lift a lot of things. So I think it's important to stay healthy. And
your diet on the road can really
big time. And your immune system. You know,
absolutely. I've run into that when I was young. I think the first the first day I went on the road, I ate at Dairy Queen, and I never did that ever again.
Never again. That was
It's something,
yikes.
you can only eat so many bad meals before it comes back to haunt you. So.
Right. And it's convenient, but it's I learned to like pack egg whites and protein shakes in my bag. I do it all the time. Everybody's like, that's okay. That's why you are doing well. You know, 'cause it looks weird, but it pays off.
And does some of that come from the background in sports?
I think so, yeah. I played basketball a lot growing up too.
Oh, nice.
So, and then so I was always geared to working out and things. And then I started training with a trainer. I still have a trainer to this day.
Oh, great.
So that keeps me, but it keeps me in tune with, staying in shape and as far as like healthy eating and things like that. So,
oh, that's great. There's sometimes a disconnect with a lot of musicians between sports and music, but it's a lot of like a friend of yours, Ari, I saw was out golfing the other day, and I mean she's one of the busiest musicians around.
Exactly,
right? So,
she's doing so great.
So it's very interesting. And I think that's a great point that maintaining some level of health, and it's I just lost 10 COVID pounds myself, and I feel a lot better.
And it's hard because you get out of rehearsals late and gigs late, and you want to just go eat something. And like, if you just kind of turn that around and try, or have something in your car and be a nerd like me and have egg whites sitting there in the car. And everybody's like, we're going to IHOP. And I'm like,
it's better than a slice of pizza, right? Do you mind showing some slap technique stuff?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool.
My man Dave would be great too for that one.
Oh, yeah. I'm just going to mute pick us to death later, I think. So.
Right.
I'm
kind of basic with slapping, but it's probably easier to slap on like a 5-string like this or a 4-string. But basically, it's so funny because when I first started playing, it was one of the first things I began practicing with slap bass. And that's probably not the best. You should practice technique, and slapping is a technique in itself. One thing I start my students off with a lot is just a slow octave, like, and just come up the neck like that. And then once they get bored with that, I'm like, go back down, and then or descend back down, but also just real super basic. Just nothing fantastic. And then just, of course, you're having a metronome or a drum.
For sure.
So, and then another one I always tell them. So, like I said, nothing fantastic. It's just things that you're basically going through, and then you go to Victor Wooten for all the other things. But just like, establishing a nice clean technique first, and then you can graduate to the other things, like interlocking, which me and Dave did on the show.
For sure. And Dave was on one of your singles, correct?
No, not one of my singles.
That backwards.
But
he was on your show.
On the show, on my City Winery show in DC. And that was so cool because we did this. It comes from clean technique, interlocking. And you have to be pretty clean because you're literally playing slap bass at the same time. And I'm sure he'll talk about that later.
For sure.
You have to be like, so it was really fun. The crowd liked it.
Absolutely. That's very cool. And you have 2 singles of your own out now. So Viscosity and Paradise.
Yes.
Nice. And do you have more music of your own in the works, or is it the gig schedule a little too busy right now?
A little combination of both of that. I have my album written out, and I'm like, okay, now I just have to record it. And then the gig schedule can take over a lot sometimes.
Great. And both are available on Spotify,
Apple Music, and all the platforms, Amazon, and then also on my website. You can just kind of plug away at the little icons, and it'll say, it'll pull up all the other platforms and everything.
Nice. Okay, we'll make sure you guys go and grab both of those. They're both killer tracks. So.
Thank you.
A little different from each other.
Definitely
but
different.
Both really cool.
It's like, did the same person write that one?
For sure.
That's what I'm working on with my EP too. I want it to be like a vast difference of sounds and stuff.
That's jazz.
Exactly.
For sure. So like we talked about, your endorse with Elrick, Elixir, GR, and Bartolini, correct?
Yes.
So what advice would you have for people that want to get endorsements of their own? How should they go about doing that?
I would say first, just put yourself out there, you know, just genuinely display the instruments or the equipment that you like to use, and stay visible. So there's some things that you'll, like Elrick basses, I was just using it and I just loved the bass and I kept tagging them, not thinking anything of it. I didn't know an Elrick bass endorsement existed until they reached out to me. So I was just, you know, doing me. I was just having fun, playing it everywhere, you know, just pretty much advertising it, saying this bass sounds so good, you know, I love this bass and everything. Bartolini, they're a great company too. You know, Elixir Strings, and also I'm with LK Straps as well.
Oh, nice,
Yeah, so,
very cool straps too.
Yeah, really cool, really cool. And I would say, you know, just put yourself out there, not in a way to be like hungry to get things, just be yourself. Because companies will recognize that genuineness, that you're just out there just doing you, and they'll want to, you know, represent you that way. I was just telling you, Elixir Strings was the only company that I actually applied for. And they turned out to be like my best friends.
Oh,
you
nice.
know, like, you know, they've really, really done a lot. But I would just say, especially online, put yourself out there. Instagram, Facebook, if you use TikTok. I don't really use TikTok. You use TikTok?
Nah, I'm too old.
It's not really I don't know, I could be wrong. I don't think it's really a musician's platform, but I don't know, maybe
for me, it's just one too many things.
Yeah,
it's,
like,
you know,
it's a lot.
Instagram, Facebook, I don't know.
Clubhouse.
They need to, I'm sure there's a way you can just get an app and send everything to everyone.
Right.
Maybe then I'll do it. But,
right. That would be good. But I would say just, you know, and speaking of platforms with the endorsements and things like that, even Clubhouse is a new platform. It's a newer platform. And I met a lot of people. I was in Global Magazine last year, and I wasn't in a music room. I was in just like a media room. They were talking about different things in press and entertainment.
Oh, cool.
And I just met different people, and then they did an article on me.
Oh, nice.
And it really helped my brand. So it's like,
Yeah.
You know, just put yourself out there. Just be you. You don't have to feel like you have to always plug yourself into musical like scenes. You'll meet other people. The entertainment industry is a big industry, so
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
You can really meet a lot of different people, and it helps you. You know, so and you never know. Like somebody else might want to endorse you that you didn't think of. Like I don't know.
Just be yourself and put it out there, and good things happen usually, right? So, So I have some quick questions for you.
Quick questions.
And just because I'm curious about this stuff with every bass player, but so Desert Island bass album. If you could only have one record with one bass player, what record would that be?
Oh man! So like if I could do a record with somebody like a.
That's a good question too. Let's go with that. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, if Prince was still alive.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I would love to do a duo with him.
Yeah.
Like that would be like I don't know what part I would play.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be one I can think of.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there a bass like an album? I guess a bass album like favorite bass lines of all time.
It's an old album. Have you ever heard of a bass player named Jeff Berlin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would do that whole thing. Like I would love to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Jeff Berlin's great.
Yeah, I haven't listened to, but I used to always listen to his music, his CDs when I first started. Like, so he was another influence I forgot to mention.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So you've got a pretty great resume already, but who are some artists that you haven't worked with yet that you would absolutely love to work with?
I would say Justin Timberlake. For some reason, I really love his music. Or I'm intrigued to work with him. Ariana Grande. Yeah. Not necessarily for her music. I love her personality. Yeah. I saw her at the Grammys the first time.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to work with her. Who else? I already mentioned Prince, but he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
So. I would say Justin, whoever else I really fit in with.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
I think that's important too.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It's got to be a fit for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What's the thing in your music career that you're most grateful for? You've done a lot of really cool things, but.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Most grateful for opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mostly, not to sound conceited, but also being open to criticism and just, you know, asking. I ask a lot of questions, and I ask a lot of questions, and I absorb the information. I run with it. So I guess just being like that, I'm really grateful, because if I wasn't that type of person, I probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
Yeah, those things will go along, and it's. I was talking about that in a lesson that I did the other day for our lesson site, where, you know, if you don't know something, like we all feel like we need to know everything, but if you can't, you know, you go to play a fill and you go, just ask the keyboard player, like, what chord is that? I obviously don't have it, so.
Right.
And that nobody minds. Most people are happy if you ask them something.
Exactly.
So that humility and just being able to
just ask.
Say, you know,
trying to figure it out. I mean, you can try to figure it out, build your ear too. But if it's something where you're just like, okay, I've tried this for about 10 minutes now and I don't know what it is, okay, just ask somebody.
Absolutely. So what advice would you have for young musicians?
I always tell them discipline is key. So, you know, growing up, especially for me, like being a girl, I wanted to go to the mall a lot, hang out a lot of sleepovers. I did those things, but not as much as the next girl, because I was spending time practicing my instrument. So discipline is key. Even when you're a professional musician, like even at that point, you have to keep up your discipline. But to get there, you spend a lot of hours practicing, which is discipline, you know? I always say if you want to be a full-time musician, you got to put in full-time hours in practice. So if you, and I'll, like the same thing like with being on TV. If you want to be on TV, the way to get on TV is not to watch TV. Do the other things that it's, you know, discipline. So, you know, but lots of practice. One thing I was told, and it's so true, don't practice songs all day. Practice all the theory fundamentals, scales, modes, techniques that we were talking about earlier. Those are the keys, I think, to becoming successful, and then just follow your own path. You don't have to follow everyone else's path. Another big thing, don't compare yourself to others.
That takes a while to get
That's
over
a rabbit hole.
Big time.
So
that's great advice.
Even your progress, you know, base your progress off of yesterday, you know, just, you know, of your own progress.
For sure. Those are huge, because it's really hard to, or really easy to, like you said, go down that rabbit hole of, if I only knew this, or this person does this better.
Right. And you limit yourself, because then you're not your own full potential, you know, you can reach your own potential, so.
For sure. Right on. Well, I think that's good, but thanks so much for coming down and hanging out with Low End Nation today. We really appreciate having you. It was great to finally meet you.
Yes, you too. It's fun.
You guys make sure you go check out at Tiffsbass on Instagram. She's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere you can stream your streamables. You can find Tiffany Lloyd.
Clubhouse. That's another new one. I'll talk on there.
For sure.
Just listen.
Right on. All right. Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.